Thank you so much for doing this. It's such a pleasure to be talking to you.
Likewise, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, I love this film. I feel like it's so unique, especially for a Western movie. But staying on that topic, Western movies are not a new thing. They've been around for a long time. What was it for you about Gunslingers, in your opinion, that made it stand out in such a beloved genre?
Oh man, I love that question because for me it really does. And it did the second I was, emailed over the script from Brian Skiba. The first thing I notice is when I get the script emailed to me is it's written by Brian Skiba, who I've worked with before, and I know he's been doing a favor to a lot of other writers by directing their stuff. And when I saw that his name was on this one, I knew he really cared about it.
Hmm.
And he informed me he had been working on it for a couple of years, so at least a couple of years. And the moment I cracked that thing open, it was apparent because from my vantage point, it read like Shakespeare. I mean, it was like high stakes, characters fighting like with the fury of all the almighty, like right to get what they need. The relationships were well baked, from my vantage point. Really important love-driven relationships. And that's what I always look for in a script before I even think about like genre or anything like that. It's like, at the heart of I always say I'm an acting teacher too sometimes, and I always say to my students, I'm like, you got to find the love in the scene, or there is no
Hmm.
scene, right? And there's so much love in all these scenes, even though there's so much rage and anger too. They're all driven by love, actually, I think. And then you wrap Western around it, you wrap 1907 around it. And to me, this starts to become kind of bucket list kind of stuff, kind of fantasy for me. And then he tossed Brian Skiba back in it, and it has a kind of this rock and roll quality, right?
Very.
My little playlist, actually, whenever I go on set, I kind of build a playlist for my character, and I just sort of follow my gut based on the writing. My playlist was full of like Metallica and Guns N' Roses and all this stuff, rap music and stuff, because it just felt just angry. And so you combine that Western genre with sort of a modern rock and roll beat to it, and it starts to stand out to me. So I think that's what it was, just that the heightened Shakespearean stakes, the rock and roll pace, and the driven by like hot relationships, makes it something special.
I love that you brought up music because that literally was one of my questions. I'm a huge fan of how score can affect the way people perceive film. So I was gonna ask if you made a playlist to get in the headset of your character, but what's a song you would use to describe your character since I already know you made a rock and roll playlist?
Oh yeah, man. The first song up on my playlist and the one I would listen to right before just about every scene was Metallica's Enter Sandman. That
That's a good one.
at the beginning was, I can hear it now, I can feel it now. It takes me right into it. It's angry, it's plotting, it's mission driven. I picture that video from all those years ago with that semi truck driving over the bed. Like it was like really epic, and yeah, definitely spoke to Robert and the journey he was on for sure.
Definitely. And it is very action-packed, as you said. What was the process of training like for that, especially with it being a Western? There's a lot of guns, a lot of horse riding. Could you speak more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those things, you get the script and you think it's cool and all that stuff, and then immediately after you're going, wait a second, I'm gonna have to do this,
You
that, the
gotta do
other.
work.
Who's going to be there to help me with that? And that's where humility comes into play,
Okay.
because you ain't alone, and we certainly weren't on this set. In terms of training, when I arrived on set, some of the first people we met with were the horse wrangler, Wilder, who was just unbelievable. Unbelievable with the animals and the other animals, which were us actors, right? And our armorer, Amos and Jerry, those guys, and the 5150 action guys, who were the kind of second unit stunt crew. This whole bunch, man, they spent a lot of time with us, offered us time, in between the weeks on the weekends and stuff, to get us on those horses and put guns in our hands. Followed protocol to the letter on all fronts. And really, you know, opened the door for us to do what we wanted to do, but never pushed us in there. I always had an option, if we weren't feeling, confident with something. Safety was critical. And I always say on set, you got to feel safe so you can act dangerous, right? And those guys really created an environment where we could learn, where we could practice, and ultimately where we can make that choice if we were going to be doing it or we're going to have some help doing it. And I think in the end, it made me free to feel dangerous on set for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, are we gonna see more horseback riding and gun use in your next films?
Gosh, I hope so. It's so fun. It's like I'm, 10 or 12 years old in my backyard. And I got to tell you that the horse riding, the gun shoot, the whole thing, the Western genre, to kind of go back to that question, is really close to me personally because I grew up, in a smaller town in Colorado, and my grandfather and great grandfather were like horsemen on the eastern slope of the mountains there, and trained all the police horses for the city of Denver back in the day. So I had all these photographs I actually brought with me of those guys that are really a part of my being, right? And in fact, that the hat that I wear in the movie was a kind of homage to my great grandfather Percy. Actually, his name is Percy Jackson. And
Wow.
yeah, and handlebar mustache and that kind of New Yorky looking hat while he's on the back of a horse. And so I sure hope so. I felt at home there. That was fun.
I love that you found a way to make it personal. And I was wondering, aside from the hat, was there a part of your costume or a part of this set that really transformed you into this character and this world?
Yeah, I mean, I got a go-to team again on this one because first off, kind of spying back to the hat bit there, that was a choice that I was allowed to make. Sometimes you are and sometimes you aren't, but
Mm.
but Brian and the team really opened the door for me to make some choices. I went into the costume fitting, and one was I put some pants on, the ones I ended up wearing in the show, and they were like, "Yeah, these are a little bit too short." So we'll let them out, but they fit otherwise. And I was like, yeah, and if you cannot let them out, I kind of like them a little too short because it pisses me off just a little bit more. Reminds me that I'm the little brother. And so they didn't. They left him alone. So that's one little thing. And then I think that scar, man, you can't, the scar and the eye patch and all that stuff. Getting to sit, like some people are like, oh, it's such a pain to have to sit for an hour, hour and a half every day. But what that really did is, you feel that going on. It's uncomfortable. And then you start thinking about how uncomfortable an actual real scar is and what memories come with it. So sitting in that chair for an hour and a half every day was part of that process of sinking in and watching your face sort of transform, losing that, very important piece of your, being, your eyeball. It was quite a journey that was gifted to me by the design of the character in the script, but also the team that put it together, Tyler and Amanda and those guys, just unbelievable. Help on transformation there.
I love that. And did you have any say in how you designed the eye patch, or did you just go with it?
No, man, I showed up on day one, and they had like a styrofoam head with that eye patch on it. And I mean, I don't would never claim to be as good as those costume designers, man. That thing, the details in the strap, the leather strap that held that thing on my head. And no, I had nothing to do with any of that. In fact, at the end, I did say, "Hey, can I take this eye patch?" And they're like, "No."
Oh, it was worth a shot.
Yeah, it was worth a shot, right? But it was such a cool piece that I'm certain they're gonna use, repurpose it or store it, or I don't know, win an award with it or something. It's pretty cool.
My last question for you, because I know we're running out of time. Your character throughout this film kind of forces the audience to find where the line is between loyalty to your family and also your self-preservation, which
Mm.
I sat there thinking a lot about during the film. As the
Mm.
villain, do you think he sees himself as justified in his actions? And how do you kind of approach playing someone who thinks they're the hero of their own story?
Well, I think you nailed it right there. I absolutely never think my character is the villain. I always leave that up to the audience. You know what I mean? That's their choice. But I'm always the hero in every character I've ever played because I think you have to be. Because I think every character is trying their best to serve their needs, and their needs to include and involve other people. Robert was actually easy to justify, to be honest. I mean, his
Okay.
behavior is terrible. Like when I step out of it and I'm talking to my kid about it, I'm like, don't do what Robert does. But 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 Robert is heartbroken. At the end of the day, Robert has really tried, man, and that there's a lot of evidence in that script. Brian gave us a lot of evidence in that script that Robert gave it a good college try, man, to try to get this family together and on the same page. And circumstance and happenings and choices made by those around him leaves him pretty alone. And I also, built a little backstory that always includes a lack of tools being developed, when you're young, probably a lack of love, maybe some abuse, some things like that. So that when he starts losing, and that's what happens. Characters either win a lot or they lose a lot in movies. And my character loses a lot. And as he's losing, he's got to grab whatever tools he's got. And sometimes that's shrieking and screaming, and sometimes that's the gun, and sometimes it's a stick of dynamite or whatever it is. But he grasps at a lot of tools, the ones that he has.
Mhm.
And that, is easy to justify because, again, there's a lot of love in these scenes.
Definitely. Well, congratulations on everything again, and thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate you. Thanks, Gracie.